Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
All right, and welcome inside to the latest edition of Adapting with Alex Garrett. Yeah, this is going to be the adapting feature because I've got a great idea for coffee that maybe we should adapt to and should make a little more mainstream. It's called Good Citizen Coffee. We talk with Sean M. Stewart about that in just a little bit. But first, question for you. If you have crutches, do you still take the accessible vehicles for Uber and Lyft, or do you take a normal car? For me, even with crutches, I personally take the normal car just because it's what I'm used to. However, the other day, I decided, well, it's been a long week, dealing with some family health issues and getting my dad through some stuff. It's been a big week. Let me try and get a Wave vehicle to take home. And here's the thing about it. It's not that I didn't mind the spaciousness of having that WAV to sort of put my crutches down and kick back and relax for a minute. It's that, yes, I guess I can adapt to it too using the WAV, but I felt a little bit like I was taking away a car from someone with a power wheelchair or a wheelchair. But what would you do in this situation if you had to? Would you take a regular car or would you take the WAV, even if you were on quote-unquote mobility devices as crutches are described as in the Lyft and Uber app? It felt like a dilemma for me. Maybe it shouldn't have, but just a little experience in the life of Alex Garrett. But that being said, I did have a chance to catch up this week with Good Citizen Coffee founder. His name is Sean M. Stewart, and he founded Good Citizen Coffee out of Nashville. So I truly believe ending this horrific week in Nashville with a good citizen was pretty fitting. Good Citizen co-founder Sean Stewart, you are all about coffee and organic coffee. And yes, we all need to wake up in the morning with that coffee, but tell me right away why healthy coffee matters and why you started Good Citizens Co.
Yeah, so we started Good Citizen Coffee first to really fill a space in Nashville that, we needed more coffee providers that offered full wholesale and training and had a lot of experience. So we started that way, but we quickly became passionate and turned the focus of the business to this more missional focus of regenerative farming and what that could do for the widespread coffee community and the coffee growing world in general. So Good Citizen was really born out of a visit to a farm in Costa Rica that used biodiversity and regenerative farming practices. And it shaped and changed the way we thought about coffee farming and what it could be and how it could impact and benefit the world and coffee consumers. And as you said, yeah, coffee is a lot of studies have been done over the years, but recently there have been a lot of peer-reviewed studies that show coffee has massive impact on health, beneficial, to reducing likelihood of Alzheimer's. It's high in antioxidants. If you roast it light and you're not over roasting it to a dark roasted product, you get a lot of really good health benefits. If you're not putting cream and sugar in it, you enjoy the taste of it. Black, a lot of the problems that come with coffee consumption come from that heavy cream and sugar consumption as well. So getting back to the roots of coffee does have a lot of health benefits. So it's impactful, especially as people kind of move away from alcohol and move away from other more harmful products for their body and for their health. Coffee is a part of that, and people will step into consuming coffee at a higher level.
Why I brought you on is because I've actually worked on the health show the last year, and the person I've been working with has convinced me to do dark coffee and no dairy and whatnot. Do you find that is a core to making this Good Citizen Coffee? Is that, yes, we don't use dairy products or what?
Yeah, coffee in and of itself, is a fruit. It comes from, it's grown in a cherry, and it should taste relatively sweet. It should have a level of acidity to it as well. If it's grown properly, if quality and attention are given to growing practices and then roasting as well, you can roast coffee in such a way that it tastes burnt and bitter and dark, or you can roast coffee in a way that really highlights the sweetness and the acidity and the terroir. And we find that the better you roast the coffee, the less likely the consumer is to put cream and sugar in it. So all of our products, including our canned coffees, don't have any dairy. We don't have any of the 9 major allergens, so it's a very safe product to consume at high levels. You can consume a lot of it and get more benefit from it.
And so why did Costa Rica change your whole mindset about coffee? It sounds like it did.
Yeah, so our farming partner called Roble Negro down in Costa Rica, I did a trip with one of my importing partners, and we tasted a bunch of coffees blind, not knowing where they came from and who the partner was. I noticed something very unique about their coffees and asked them, my importing partner, to take me to that farm. When I got there, most farms, are about volume of trees. How many trees can I shove into one plot of land? How much coffee can I produce and how much yield can I get year over year? And when we went to this farm, they had specific areas of the land dedicated to squash, pumpkins, ground cover, a bunch of just throwaway crops, throwaway plants. They had animals roaming the land. They had pigs, cows, sheep. The natural flora and fauna of the area were able to roam freely. They had a reduction in fertilizers, a reduction in pesticides, not using common practices to just get the most yield out of the farm as possible. They were doing the long play. They knew that if they treated the land well, over time their yield would increase, their quality would increase. And we've seen that, from the first time I bought from them 4 years ago to today, their quality and yield has gone up year over year over year. And they have not changed the way they do things. And so people being specific, farmers being, utilizing their land specifically to encourage natural pesticide through animals and through birds, and having shade grown trees all over the place where birds can nest and eat the bugs. And then you have pigs and sheep and cattle all over the land, both fertilizing the land and also just eating from the squash and apples and other things they're growing there. It really spoke to me that this style of farming has a huge future in coffee. Coffee is prone to monocropping like a lot of other commodity industries. And so if we really want to see coffee thriving 50 years from now, we need to start better practices on the farm, because coffee is supposed to grow 2 times in consumption. And that's a lot of coffee being produced. The industry is about a $52 billion industry today, and it's planned to be a $152 billion industry in 2030. And so that volume and the increase of consumption will lead to future farm failures, land that just doesn't produce anymore, land that becomes dry and arid, because the more we turn the land, the more we cycle through fertilizers, pesticides, and more trees we plant, just really reduces what the soil has to give to the trees. Yield goes down. Then they start looking for new plots of land that have not been overly produced, and the cycle just continues. That cycle will have its end at some point. So ways to really revive and refresh land through regenerative practices will keep the industry thriving, will keep quality up, will keep us from having to go buy coffee that is really good for $50 a bag instead of $15 a bag.
Well, when we're on sustainability and all this crops and whatnot, I mean, it seems like farming in general has been really decimated by this weather. And I don't like to promote climate change because I believe it just the weather is naturally changing. However, I know that the weather is affecting the farmers and the crops. Are you finding that with coffee growing?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is, the coffee grows in such a, very specific latitude, longitude, and it's really dependent on rainy seasons. And so if you have too much rain coming during a season where you're supposed to be harvesting, or when the flowering is supposed to stop and the cherry production is supposed to start, you start getting reductions in yield for that reason alone. But there are things you can do to combat that. And if the ground is absorbing the water at a much higher rate, you actually get less of that overproduction of the flowering, and it works better. It flows downhill better. The land naturally just moves and passes water through a lot easier. So there's a lot of really good aspects of that. But yeah, I agree. Political aside, or the climate change aspect aside, whatever you believe about it, there is benefit to farming this way that doesn't have, that is not related directly to climate change. It does increase yield. It does increase quality. It is really good for your land in general. So if you're a farmer, a forward-thinking farmer, you're going to use these practices just because you don't have to buy as many fertilizers. You don't have to buy as many pesticides. You're not putting chemicals on your product, and you are able to maintain those yields and quality that you would, having to till up the earth a lot, having to use all these things. So there's a lot of benefit to doing this regardless. And I think the future of coffee necessitates a lot of these changes, and the future of food production in general. I don't know if you've seen The Biggest Little Farm. I think it's a really good picture of how biodiversity and regenerative farming can really come into play and help the farming world. They take this dry, used up, arid land, and they turn it into this, really organic, really thriving environment, and they see a lot of good qualities out of the food they produce. So I do think that there is a future in farming that looks this way, that is good for the world and good for farmers and good for their profitability and good for revenue, regardless of climate change or what we think or feel about that. So, I think this is important for this industry and a lot of food industries in general.
All right. Well, I love that we're talking about this because I know that people have started to homegrown their own foods. And is there a benefit to homegrown your own coffee?
We can't yet. Like you said, the climate does seem to be shifting, and certain other areas are becoming maybe a little more conducive to coffee growing. But no part of the U.S. can grow coffee currently. We just don't have you could probably recreate an environment for it in a greenhouse or something like that, but you're not going to get yield enough to satiate your own desire for coffee. Not in the U.S., not yet.
Is there any footage of what you guys did down in Costa Rica, a YouTube channel and whatnot that people could see in action? Yes, actually, we do. We have a 7-minute video that should be on our website, goodcitizencoffee.com, and if not, it will be very soon, where we talk through and show the farm and show the aspects. Again, it's cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, just roaming the land, and you can see some of these aspects that I'm talking about of very specific plots that most farmers would just put more coffee trees. They've chosen to plant other crops in order to, build a healthy and sustainable land. So. Well, people are consumed with opening day, and I know that people aren't really sipping their coffee during a baseball game. However, it just it is something that, maybe before you get to the game, you should have some Good Citizen coffee because that'll energize you for the game, right? Absolutely. Yes. And, it is not as good sustainable energy as some of the things out there, but you definitely get a pick-me-up from coffee. And, I probably drink way too much of it, but it does get me through the day. got to ask you this because coffee is a culture, is it not? And we kind of focus on society and culture. So coffee is a culture, and I feel like where they grow it is more of a culture than where we consume it, right? So how do we integrate both?
Yeah. Coffee had a stigma for so long of just being like, oh, I just need my caffeine. I just need my pick me up. I just need something to get me through the day. Best part of waking up, that style of thinking about coffee. And a lot of us, my age bracket, I'm 37, so I have memories of smelling the coffee in the morning that my dad would consume, thinking that it was the most disgusting smelling on planet Earth. So we all have these like very strong memories tied to coffee. And I think that as people do shift from drinking and consuming beverages that are not as good for their health, we're becoming very health conscious. We all want to be healthy and live longer for our families. And I think coffee will become a greater part of culture. And I think that consuming coffee that is roasted lighter and does show more of the terroir will become more of like a wine culture in our community, in the U.S., where we are looking deeper at, okay, what variety is it? Where does it come from? Where is it grown? What's the elevation? Start to talk about coffee in a way that is much more like wine and the way we consume wine today. And, a lot of that comes through education, just knowing what coffee is, where it comes from, how it's grown, and the differences in production, how you roast it, and how it can taste different based on how you roast it. All these elements will come into play.
Once you get it roasted, can you flavor it? Like how does the flavoring work when it comes to organic coffee? Is it sort of the same as, I'd say, processed coffee, or is there a different method to the madness here?
Yeah, flavoring traditionally. So if you get your, toasted nut coffee or your blueberry morning, that's going to have that's chemically processed. It's going to have, flavorings added to the coffee after it's roasted. But coffee itself, we qualify it, taste it, give it tasting notes, much like wine. You smell it, you drink it, you taste blueberry, you taste strawberry, and it has that naturally. However, the industry is kind of maturing the way that it processes coffee as well. And so now you can actually wash and soak the green coffee at the farm level in a huge vat with, say, strawberries or oranges or, you name it. And so it naturally absorbs a lot of those, minerals and nutrients from strawberries so that when you roast it and drink it, it is fruitier naturally. So that I think is really the next step of flavored coffees, not so much relying on the chemical addition of flavorings, but more, hey, in process, let's do natural organic things that can make this coffee taste fruitier, more robust, those kinds of things.
Sean, you're up against what I like to call, I guess I'm going to call it now, big coffee, right? So you're up against the big coffee guys, and how does that feel to compete and be in the trenches, trying to really get this organic coffee off the ground, if you will?
Yeah, we're all competing for market share. That market share is growing. Expected 12.5% compound annual growth over the next 7 to 10 years. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, a lot of opening, through online sales, subscription services. The way people are purchasing coffee is changing, less reliance on grocery stores. However, I think a lot of it comes from identifying market restraints, creating your specialty solution to those market restraints. One of them is RTD coffees, coffees you can go grab in a cold case at the grocery store. That's real quick. So we have flash chilled nitro coffees that we sell, about to be in Whole Foods here very soon. Instant coffee, convenience coffees is a big market, or going to be a big market. Your Keurig, your unsustainable methods of brewing like that are heavily reliant on plastics are going to start decreasing. And so we have patented an instant coffee as well, that is specialty. that tastes, more like what you would go to a coffee shop and get. So, identifying the market restraints, trying to create solutions to those, and then as the market starts to shift more toward specialty and light roasted, medium roasted specialty coffee, as buying power starts to change over the years and generations, you're primed and ready to compete with the bigger names. So that's setting yourself up not only for what your market wants today, but what your market might want 10 years from now is very important in this industry because a lot is changing.
I would say so. First of all, how can people go to Good Citizen Coffee and get some roasts right now, like beans and whatnot to order home or what?
Yeah, absolutely. So goodcitizencoffee.com. You can go order any of our varieties. We have a bunch of blends, and then we have a bunch of single origin varieties. You can also order our ready to drink iced coffee cans off the website, and instant coffee will come soon. You can also go to Whole Foods in the South, pick some up. You can find us in Fresh Time, Fresh Market, a bunch of different grocers. I can't remember the whole list currently, but yeah, you can. And then Trade Coffee is an online subscription portal that you can subscribe to our coffee there as well, and find it in lots of different places.
Any storefronts on the horizon for you guys?
As far as restaurants, coffee shops, or more grocery?
Well, more like a coffee shop. Yeah, a coffee shop.
Yeah, we do have. So we have a licensed cafe in the Embassy Suites Hotel downtown Nashville. We have a restaurant that is actually called Stay Golden. You can go get breakfast there. You can go get a cup of coffee there. Serves Good Citizen coffee. And then, yeah, we do have plans to expand Stay Golden and do more licensed cafes for Good Citizen, mostly in the hotel industry.
Any chance of expanding to New York? So I love when companies come on the show, then a minute later they're expanding. So any expansions on the horizon?
Not in other cities yet. Still trying to capture as much as we can here in the South and in Nashville. But yes, that is a plan to have that someday.
Now, you guys were a finalist for the, if I read it right here, Good Food Awards. So Tell us about this. You have chocolate oat nitro iced coffee on the side, on the front of it. That doesn't sound entirely healthy, but I guess you guys make it healthy. So tell us how you got to be a finalist and what that means for Good Citizen Coffee's growth, if you will.
Yeah, it's very exciting. There was about 2,000 applicants in our field in the ready to drink category. So to be a finalist out of all of those is extremely exciting. There's more to it that I'm not allowed to say yet, but it goes beyond being a finalist, if you can read between the lines. And yeah, it's really good unsweetened cocoa. It's Oatly, oat milk, so we have a partnership with Oatly. We do have some natural, unrefined, unprocessed sugar in there. Not a lot. The calorie count's not huge. And then we brew our iced coffee, and we have our own tanks. It's essentially a beer brewery that we've converted into brewing mass volumes of hot coffee that we then send through a flash chiller to bring down the temperature really quickly, lock in all the flavors, all the aromatics. It's a whole completely closed process system, so there's no chance of bacteria or anything getting in there. And then we store it and add nitrogen to it. So it kind of creates that frothy, foamy texture that you would get from a Guinness or something like that. So when you find it on the shelf, it's encouraged that you shake it really well because it kind of brings those nitrogen bubbles out and allows you to get that creamy mouthfeel that a lot of people desire from a nitro coffee. So yeah, the chocolate oat nitro is fantastic. I drink way too much of it currently.
Well, when the between the lines become, the lines, if you will, let me know, and we will circle back with you. But I got to ask you this: I feel like you're bringing an appreciation to coffee that isn't really talked about. Meaning, as I said earlier, it's a culture, and your mission not only is to do regenerative and help the coffee farmers, it's also to bring appreciation to the coffee drinker, right? That you can just sit at home for a minute and not have to rush around, but really consume this organic, good citizen coffee. That's kind of what I'm feeling when we talk here.
Yeah, it's about, I think with anything, market shifting, consumers are shifting the way they consume. We like to think about what we're consuming and how it affects us, how it affects our mood, our mentality, our health. A lot of that encourages you to slow down. Convenience coffee has long had a, just that reputation of being bad, but that's okay. It's okay that it's bad because I need it fast, and it's more about getting it fast than it is about enjoying it. And now we're seeing a shift, and it is encouraged, like, especially on a long weekend, brew your cup of coffee, sit down with it, take some time with it, smell it. It doesn't taste bad when it cools down. It actually tastes fruitier. It tastes better when it gets cold. So it is really designed around thinking about what you're consuming and caring about what you're consuming, and not just trying to add some caffeine quickly to your morning.
How are you guys getting Are people getting investors and whatnot, or is your company getting investors and people that are buying into this to support you guys off the ground, or how did you guys get to Costa Rica? Was that privately funded? Was it funded by a donor? How did that work out?
Yeah, so we have a great partnership here. I'm partnered with a company called DesignWorks Collective. So my business partner, Joe Moore, has a bunch of different companies, and it's privately funded, and there's a lot of benefit to that. We are looking at the market and looking at places where we can achieve success together, and it gives us a lot of freedom to take some risks earlier on than most companies would. That comes with its benefits and comes with its downsides to taking risks early, but I think it is setting us up to really achieve a lot on the market. And so just having that, just through connections and through friends and family, we've been able to have this great situation and have be a part of this large company. Really helps to grow correctly, I think.
One last question here. Agriculture is changing. How do you guys keep up with the changes?
So we have a program called Flora and Fauna where we are paying 5% on top of our green coffee purchasing to invest and reinvest into farms and small estates to help them build regenerative farming practices on their land. And for us, that looks like either creating an organization over time, creating a network over time of roasters that will invest and reinvest into farms specifically around regenerative farming. It also looks like utilizing a lot of organizations that already exist to increase knowledge and increase understanding of biodiversity and how it helps. So our goal is we're always learning. I think the farming industry in general is learning more how these practices can help for the future. So, we don't ever claim to know everything, but we are always pushing the envelope, trying to learn more, trying to help farmers learn more. And so I think that over the years, we can really create a robust network of investment and see a lot of change and improvement in farming and in agriculture, especially coffee being such a highly traded commodity as it is. Really want to see that coffee bag not be $50 10, 20 years from now. It might be anyway, but we can do our part and take every step possible to really make sure that we have good quality coffee for a long time.
Love it. Where can people find you on Twitter and Instagram? And may I get an order of this? I'm kind of curious now how it tastes. I'd love to get a try at this.
Absolutely. You can work with us. We'll definitely get you some coffee. But goodcitizencoffee.com, you can buy anything you want on there. Our Instagram is at Good Citizen Coffee. We don't have a Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook, Good Citizen Coffee. Myself, Sean M. Stewart is my Twitter handle. I am on Instagram as well. It's mostly just stuff with my kids and pictures like that. But if you have interest in coffee, follow Good Citizen for sure.
One last thing. Why name it Good Citizen? I love that name.
So we originally were Stay Golden Coffee. A little more niche, a little more market dependent, and we also ran into a little bit of a trademark issue that instead of seeing if it would be a problem down the road, we decided to shift gears. And the timing was such that it was right after a visit to Costa Rica. And so this missional statement was very strong in my mind. I really wanted to create a brand that would participate in that practice. So Good Citizen came out of that mission. What can we do as a business? If we're going to do business, we might as well do good business, right? So what could we do as a business that would benefit everybody in the chain, everybody in the process, and help us succeed long term and not have just a short term view. So that's where being a good citizen is just like respecting and caring about every part of the process and doing our best to not just take, but to also give. And so that's where that comes from.
All right, Sean M. Stewart, Good Citizen Coffee. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll enjoy that cup of joe with you next time here on the Alex Guerra Podcast Network.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Sean Stewart. And on that note, one other adapting story that we must discuss real quick, the horrible, horrible tornado ripping through Little Rock, Arkansas. Join the VOAD movement. That's the Voluntary Organization of Disaster Relief movement, and they are right now on the ground. And find out more on how you can get involved with them if you want to support not only in Arkansas but around the nation. Just check out the hashtag VOAD movement, and I'll put a link to it as well. But yes, there are ways to help, not just in a mainstream kind of way, but on the ground kind of way when it comes to natural disasters. And so I highly suggest you check out the VOAD movement for Little Rock, Arkansas relief, as well as preparation for any other natural disaster that might strike our shores. On that note, have a great rest of your Saturday. It's Palm Sunday tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon here on the podcast.